So my name is Dr. Bruce Bochner. I'm the Director of the Allergy Division at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, Maryland. I think this book has come a long way in trying to be incredibly comprehensive from the standpoint of the basic cell biology and the basic immunology from a clinician's perspective. It's detailed enough that it can appeal even to non-MDs, and not so detailed that either an MD non-specialist wouldn't find this book very approachable. I think it's really done a good job in describing the science that you need to know to be a good allergist, and at the same time there are really good chapters that anyone involved in the care of patients with diseases like food allergy or asthma or sinus disease can really take home a lot. And starting with the last edition, I personally really appreciated the fact that the artwork in the book was very accessible. And if you had the book, you had the online version, you could download the slides for presentations. That saved me on numerous occasions, saved me a lot of work. I think many of the authors are fresh to the book and bring a fresh new perspective. We like to try and turn the chapters over as much as possible to get fresh perspectives. Some of the chapters, there's been a lot of new science behind the chapters. There's some chapters that either didn't exist or really are now just coming of age because the field of either that disease or that part of immunology is now coming of age. So I think there's some really nicely, like almost completely updated chapters compared to the previous edition. And on the other side, I think there's some chapters that are nicely sort of focused in the way that they've been updated. Maybe new medicines are on the scene or new understandings of disease pathophysiology, but a lot of the basic prior understanding of the disease hasn't changed quite as much. So it's really a broad spectrum, and all the artwork I think has been updated for this book and standardized in a way that I think readers and academicians will appreciate and probably use. I would say students probably will pick up this book to look up something specific. Allergy trainees will, I think, likely use this book not only for training but for board review purposes. And I think physicians in practice, depending on what they're looking for, some may use this to renew their board certification, since most are time limited now. And I think if the book remains as accessible online, it may be also accessible through libraries and other ways of searching, so that whether you have the book in your hand or whether you have the access to the book through your local library, I think the searching capabilities has also made this a much more approachable book if you just have one or two particular questions that you want answered, rather than read it cover to cover like you would for preparing for boards. There are a couple of chapters. There's an updated chapter on sinus disease that covers nasal polyps. I think there's a little bit of information in this book that hadn't been there previously about oral immunotherapy rather than allergy shots, and a lot of otolaryngologists are starting to incorporate that approach in their practice. I think you could say the same thing about dermatologists. There are some really nice chapters about skin disease and atopic dermatitis. It's certainly not a comprehensive dermatology book, but for certain aspects of diseases where there's a little bit of overlap with other fields, I think they would find chapters like that to be very useful. This is really the only textbook like this I've ever edited, and to be honest, I think it's considered one of the premier texts in the field, and it's quite an honor even to be asked to edit it. And as a physician scientist, I like the fact that it has the science and the clinical piece. For a while it's been a 2-volume set, and being able to write and edit chapters that are more clinical and more basic really appeals to me, because that covers all aspects of why I am an academic allergist.